been looking at a lot of the coverage of the Maui stuff. It's just so infuriating. So infuriating. Listen to the people there. It's pretty much the same story. Regular day, everything's fine. All of a sudden, fire everywhere. Fire everywhere. Just like boom, just out of nowhere. It's kind of how it seemed to have played out. The thing is that a lot of people, like, I don't ever see mentioned this, they don't have wildfires on fucking islands with in a tropical climate. It's not a thing that happens. It's like having an avalanche in the desert or something. It's just, it's not the atmosphere isn't conducive to having like a large dry leaves or a dense forest of dry trees. There's nowhere for it to really start, no reason for it to start, and there hasn't been one before this one, right? They claim they're trying to call something that happened like 10 years ago a wildfire, but that's the closest they have to having any kind of history of wildfires on that island. Even the idea of a wildfire, it's like, how would that happen? A wildfire, traditionally, how it used to be, would be in like a dense forest area, and even those are kind of like, it'd be like, well, they just start out of nowhere. I don't know, it was really dry, and you need a lot of trees to keep carrying it through. That's how it works, you know. But that kind of, the area isn't conducive to something like that. Like it wouldn't happen there. So you see there's a lot of these guys too, obvious plants. You know, they're always like a middle-aged white-skinned dude talking about how he's lived in the area for X amount of years, and he's pushing all the NWO kind of checklist, you know. He talks about it being the cause of, you know, climate change is really affected, you know, you're going to start seeing more stuff like this. Like, he's going down all the points. He's an obvious plant. There's a lot of them. They put them at these kind of things because they're not letting journalists in, I guess. They're not letting people in to do any kind of journalism stuff, yet you keep getting these interviews with these specific people that are being put out into the media. But the good thing, right, going through all this stuff, is that more people are aware of a deception than I've ever seen before for one of these things. It's great to see, like, people bringing up DEWs. You know, if this was even 5 years ago, if you were to bring that up, you'd get, you know, you'd have your comment probably taken down. You get a lot of pressure from the people there as well commenting. But let me just get out. I'm being surrounded here. You know? I could pick the most barren, quiet place. Oh, that looks like there's no people, and I just get surrounded really quickly. But anyway, that's just me. That's all right. But yeah, watching it is just, it's what they're not saying that drives me nuts. Like, well, you know, when they lay out like the air quote facts of the situation, no one's mentioning all this other stuff. Like, they still don't know how it started or where it came from. And they're not really trying to come up with an excuse for it. The thing is, when something like this happens, people's critical thinking skills go out the window because they're hyper focused on their feelings, their emotions, you know. So their emotions take over, and it all becomes about the poor people that were affected by this, as it should be, because it's crazy what happened to them. So when everyone's all up in their feelings about that, no one is really asking critical kind of questions or logical things. And when you do, you know, in most cases you get shouted down for like being insensitive or something. They know what they're doing. You know, they've done this kind of thing before. Obviously, I mean, that's all they do, is this kind of thing. But someone was explaining to me, you know, when this first happened, I was like, yeah, they just want to clear out the land because they want it for themselves. I mean, of course they do. And they don't want to have to buy some people won't sell, you know. And they wanted that area in the Heineken a specific reason. I forget. I'll write it here on the screen when I see it. But I didn't know this until like yesterday. A friend of mine was telling me. I was under the impression that they just, you know, basically just wanted that land for redevelopment, resale, to keep within their own group of people, the evil weirdos, who the farmers, you know. But they wanted that area specifically. So, quickest way to get it is just fry it, burn it all down, and that's it. And come back in and redevelop it, is sell it. Well, they don't have to sell it. They're not selling any of it. These people don't need money. They make the money. That's funny too. I mean, and it makes sense if you're kind of firmly in the matrix, where you believe money is the most important thing to these people. All they care about is money. All they kids like, no, they don't. They fucking make the money. They don't care about money. What the hell was it? It was something to do with the trade. You know, the human movement trade that goes on here, which is so prevalent here. But that, anyway, they wanted that land, so they just basically burned people off it. And I think with this time, it's like they kind of overdid it, because I don't think they've ever used it in this kind of climate, or that kind of, like the island kind of island weather. The air is a little different out here. It has a little bit more moisture content to it. It's not a place where you would have a fire, like a wildfire. It couldn't happen. And here's the thing too. Look at any picture. What do you see? You see everything turned to ash, right? Except for the trees. Trees are fine. Wildfires are the distributor. I mean, trees are the usual distributor of wildfires. That's what they need to start. That's what they need to keep it going. You need to have trees close in proximity to each other. They don't have any of that. And all the trees are fine. All the trees are fine. And it's like there's cars, right? Burned to a crisp. Like just a shell. And a few feet away is the garbage barrel made of plastic, or a plastic plant holder. It's fucking fine. When you go to make something, heat something up in a microwave, take a plastic plate, put your food on it, food heats up, plate's fine. Not even hot, because microwaves won't affect certain kind of material. And that's why when you look at those pictures, you see everything's just fried to a crisp, except for certain things that it doesn't affect at all. But yeah, we're just reading comments and stuff from people. There's a lot of people that are kind of hip to all this stuff, which is good. You know, I didn't expect to see so many people. I'm usually the lone guy pissing in the wind, crying out to no one, and then being made fun of for saying stupid stuff. It's just a fire, bro. Yeah, I gotta really limit my looking at that stuff, because it just makes me fucking crazy. It makes me crazy. I don't know, man. Yeah, I'm gonna keep following it just to see how it plays out, because we're starting to get to a point where in the timeline where people were gonna ask questions. It would be start happening now, and a lot of the pressure, I guess, is being put toward not being warned of this. You know, like we don't have any kind of system in place for some kind of warning for this. Well, no, because they don't have fucking wildfires on fucking islands. It doesn't happen. You know, it's like I said, like living in the desert, right, or living in Arizona, and having something in place in case there's like an avalanche, like a snow avalanche or something. It's just, why would you need that? It wouldn't happen there. So yeah, it's a DEW situation, and it's very encouraging to see as many people as I have bringing that up, because that's absolutely what this was. It says, well, right now the story is they're trying to recover people and the excuses for things are flying around. But you'll notice they'll always have people in there to drive the question somewhere else. Like they always have like those guys I was talking about, like those middle-aged white dudes there. And I hate to use that description because I feel like I'm one of them by talking like this, but that's just what it was. Not Islanders is the reason I'm trying to even point that out. They don't talk to many of them because these interviews that are coming out of there, you know, they're kind of controlled, obviously, because they're not letting people in to ask questions. They're not letting journalists in there. So they're saying this, and then in the same breath, they're interviewing some guy that looks like a fucking... Oh, is this sidewalk closed? What? What do you expect people to do here? What? What is this? Working... Where? What does it say? Workers above, please use crosswalk. Yeah, okay. Where are the workers? No one works here. This is Hawaii. What the fuck are you talking about? So, yeah, it's just infuriating. But on the good side, like I said, there's people. You telling us not to go here? Oh, I guess you're going. All right, that's what's happening. Well, I guess we could go back to doing work down there at the top. This is pretty smart. They always do this stuff. They were doing they were trying to fix a crack on the ground in front of McDonald's down here. It's always like the local kind of construction people. They just, they don't think that good. So they'll force people into the fucking street. The McDonald's, like I was saying, this McDonald's up here, they're fixing a crack in the ground in front of the restaurant. So they just put up fucking like that, so you couldn't walk on the thing anymore. But there's no way to go there, so they're basically moving people into the street. Now they're not thinking that that's dangerous, because when you're a certain type of way, you don't think those kind of thoughts don't come into your mind, unfortunately. Like another thing they do is, if they're working on things with manhole covers, or they have to go into the sewer system or something, and I've told stories like this before, some really funny ones. When it's quitting time, for whatever reason, they'll just leave them open. Pretty dangerous, leaving these manhole covers open. There was one night I was down on the elbow with my friend, and noticed one was open. I'm like, oh shit, someone could fall into that, get seriously hurt. And so I go home, like, I know I have cones back at my apartment building. I'm gonna get some. Yeah, look at this. Whatever that is. So I'm gonna get some. So as I'm walking to my house, I noticed there's like tons of them open all along the street. It's like what happens, they were doing it, they were working there, and then it was time to quit, and they just fucking left. The only time I feel like I'm safe to go near any kind of construction is if it's like a mainland kind of construction company was flown over to do it. It's not like they want to be dangerous. It's not like they're trying to be, but they just don't. A lot of them don't have it together like enough to think about it, and it makes it dangerous. Like, I can't tell you how many times I walked over a piece of plywood on the ground that was because they were working somewhere, and they had a hole, right, to work in, and it's a piece of plywood, and you walk over this thing, and you'd be bouncing up and down on it, on the wood. That's just how they do things here. People go, well, can't they have, wouldn't people sue them? You ain't suing anybody here. Fuck no, you don't know what country you're in. You're not in America here. You get hurt, you cause you start yapping about it, you're gonna fucking disappear. I'm not fucking being, I'm not joking. That's how it goes here. I got stories, but we're not gonna get into them today because I'm almost home. But yeah, I'm gonna keep my eye on that thing, and if anything really interesting pops up, I'll talk about it. But for right now, it's at that stage in the story where excuses are still being made. pretty sickening, man. It makes you really angry, but what are you gonna do, you know? Just try not to let it, like, consume you too much. At least that's what I try to do. Alright. Being surrounded again. It never ends with me. Don't blame the teacher. Blame the school.